Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to AED Summit Live here in Orlando. We are now joined by Chris Slight with Off-Highway Research. How are you, sir?
I'm very well.
Good Having a good show?
Here. Yeah, I've got my exhibition voice. You know, day 3 going
Absolutely.
a little bit hoarse, so that's a good sign, I guess. Yeah.
And the evenings have been fun and adventurous here in Orlando.
I couldn't possibly comment on that.
None of us can, but we all look a little bleary-eyed the next day. So, can you give us a brief overview of what you guys do?
Yeah, sure. So Off-Highway Research is a market research and forecasting company. We focus specifically on the heavy equipment world, predominantly construction equipment. And we have offices around the world. So in the UK, where I'm from, and throughout Europe, in China, India, and Japan for the major Asian markets, and also over here in the Americas. So we provide a global coverage of what the industry is doing, both on that high level and then coming all the way down to individual markets and regions.
Gotcha.
So how did you guys get involved with the AED?
I think it was just one of those where things fell into place. You know, we'd always produced reports and data on North America, and we were looking to get into this region a little bit more. That was about 4 or 5 years ago. So when we did that, we reached out to AED just to see if we could get involved in the association. And that came at a time when I think they were looking for a little bit more content about markets. So we started to present at the summit. This is my 3rd or 4th one. And then more recently, we were commissioned by AED to produce a study on the North American market, really from the point of view of distributors and dealers. Okay. So that's been a great partnership. You know, our experience in forecasting combined with a survey of members that's produced some very interesting and focused results.
So can you talk a bit about the report? What was the report about? What was the focus? What was kind of the purpose?
Well, I think from the AED's point of view, that there are obviously a lot of economic reports out there, but there was nothing that really focused in on what distributors felt, you know, what their reality was and what the challenges were that they faced. So that was the real idea, was to survey the membership and understand a range of things about their businesses, you know, what their challenges are, how their growth and their day-to-day business was going, but also to take a very detailed survey of the market to understand region by region and equipment type by equipment type, you know, what's going well, what's going not so well, what the feelings for the future were. So it's a very comprehensive study.
So is it an ongoing report, or is it just a one and done?
Well, we're going to have to see how it goes. We launched the first edition of the report here at the summit. It's available to buy from AED now. I think that's an important point to make. It is the AED's property. They're selling it, and they're selling it at a price that's really very favorable as a benefit of membership. And we're just going to see how it goes. The presentation I gave earlier seemed to be very well received. And there's an ambition on both sides to make it an annual study. You really start to learn more and more when you can repeat these things and start to pick out trends, and understand a lot of the finer details of the industry.
So from a timing perspective, we're kind of in a unique point here with the election and with the passing of the torch to the new incoming administration. Was any of that taken into consideration under the report, or might there be a little skewed now that we've changed administrations?
Well, that's a really good question. The survey was carried out in the 3rd quarter of last year. So the point was then, you know, dealers are going to fairly fully understand how their year's looking. So we wanted to get a firm picture of that. And then we asked about sentiment for 2025 at that point. And yeah, you know, 2024 was a tough year for most dealers, particularly those in the agricultural equipment space. But overall, the market was fairly flat. And looking ahead to 25, there was sort of cautious optimism. We didn't put anything in the survey about, you know, if Party A wins, do you think this? Or if Party B wins, do you think that? And my personal opinion is that the economy doesn't really care who's in the White House.
Sure.
There are bigger factors at play that aren't kind of moved very quickly by an election. Having said that, you know, we always see not just in the US, but countries throughout the world, that when there's an election coming up, there is caution. People wait to see what the policy direction will be, whether it's good or bad. And obviously we'll find out on Monday and in the weeks and months to follow what the policy direction will be. Again, there's potential for positives and negatives, so we'll just have to wait and see.
Is there any insights at all that you'd like to share from the report you guys did?
Well, where do we start? I mean, I think with the high level economic fundamentals, my main message would be the economy's in a good place. There are no red flags in the general economy. Peak inflation, peak interest rates have passed. We would expect interest rates to come down. If you dig a little bit further down into construction activity is good. We've seen a few wobbles in the residential sector as interest rates have gone up and slowed activity in the last 2 years, but last year things picked up. And obviously in the non-residential world, we hear great things about semiconductor plants, what's going to come with data centers. And actually the energy requirements for those data centers is staggering. So what we're going to see in power plant construction in the years to come, very, very positive. So, we see the fundamentals and the things that drive the industry here in North America as being good. Having said that, there was a wobble last year. The survey across dealerships of all sizes showed that equipment sales were down last year. Be they new or used equipment sales, everyone felt that. It doesn't seem to have had too bad an impact. I think revenues were fairly well maintained. That's really one thing that came out of the survey. But we certainly saw, again, across the board of dealership sizes and where they're based, that margins weren't really where the companies would like them. So yeah, it was a tough year, and as I said, if you're more in the agricultural world, probably a very tough year last year. But as I said, the sentiment is pretty much positive across the board. No one's doing somersaults. It is cautious optimism. I think the agricultural sector is still a little bit challenged. I think in reality that will probably kind of hit the bottom of the curve this year, I should say.
We're here.
We are, 2025 already. But other sectors may start a little bit slow, but will certainly improve as the year goes on.
So there's been a lot of talk about tariffs.
Yeah.
And obviously the new administration is pretty adamant about it. How's that going to play into the construction and agricultural markets?
Badly, I would say, if they do come through. I think the first point to make about tariffs is that they're inflationary. If you put a 25% tariff on, in construction, say lumber coming from Canada, that 25% money doesn't just suddenly appear from somewhere and go to the US Treasury. Ultimately the consumer pays for that. So that puts 25% on that bill. We're economists. We believe in free trade, and we believe tariffs have a negative impact. I think the other thing to say about tariffs as well is if the US adds tariffs to something, there will be retaliatory tariffs on the other side, and they will also be negative for US trade.
You almost get a double hit.
Yeah, exactly. And talking as we were about agriculture, I'm sure agricultural products will be some of the first things in the sights of these countries like Canada and Mexico, which are big importers of US foodstuffs. So there's absolutely no upside to tariffs. There are a lot of downsides. And the history lesson to look back on is the 1930s, where the Wall Street crash didn't create the Great Depression. Tariffs created the Great Depression. And I'm not doom mongering. I'm not saying we're going there, but there's no upside to tariffs.
Yeah, absolutely. A big topic of conversation this year at AED and a lot of our conversations has been the workforce shortage. And just out of curiosity, in the report, any insights on the workforce shortage and kind of what the future of that looks like and the impact to the dealer network and in this industry?
Yeah, sure. There definitely is one. I mean, one of the things we looked at was employment in the construction industry over time. and that's been at an all-time high and heading up really since the pandemic. Specifically, our survey showed that dealerships of all sizes are really struggling to find people in the service area. That's a big need. And we were also finding that smaller dealerships had trouble finding people who really knew the parts business very well. So they were two specific areas. I don't think the distribution industry is unique. It is a tight labour market. It has been for several years. It may be easing a little bit, but the way demographics work in this country, that's not going to suddenly get better over time. I think a sensible, managed approach to immigration is really the only way that the US economy will deal with these labour shortages across many industries.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So this report, where can AED members get access to this?
It's available to buy on the website right now.
Okay.
You can just sign in, go to the publication section, and click and buy it. The AED is priced it at $795, which in the context of AED is not even half an evening's bar bill. So I think it does represent pretty good value.
And you get return on this as opposed to the bar bill.
Absolutely. You get back, show your CEO, and say, "Look what I got."
Absolutely.
Rather than, just kind of getting carpeting for how much you spend. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for the time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you, guys.
And join us for another live stream. It will be our final live stream here in about a half hour to 45 minutes here from Orlando. Thanks.